conscious of them, and we're glad that you were here today.
Thank you.
With that, I am ready to leave the stage and let St. Germaine come in. And so, without any further ado, I will not worry about Martha coming in. She will just wait till the end and will give me a few minutes as I leave, and St. Germaine will be glad to join you. So give me a minute, and Mac, you can switch the tape.
I just did. It seems to be working fine.
Just be working fine. Thank you for your help.
Welcome.
All right. Good afternoon. I am St. Germaine, and I am here today to help you and inform you of some wonderful news today that I hope will bring you into a new state of happiness.
Well, thank you.
Well, I think the people in this room today are not aware of how far you have actually come. So often people are concerned about their present life and how much they have accomplished and grown, and you people have done leaps and bounds in this lifetime. But I'm here to say that you have both, and all of three of you have had actually lots of lifetimes which you have gradually moved through the different levels of consciousness to be here today. And these are your last lessons to be coming into your needing to understand how energy works. And so today is a very profound day. You see, Jesus came to teach the right use of energy. He was a teacher of righteousness. When it says in the Psalms, yea, though I walk through the valley of death, it also talks about going through the paths of righteousness. And that's what we're talking about today, is how those paths of righteousness came to be and how you can follow through just as Jesus did, with the same steps, doing the same kinds of actions, so that your consciousness will be not only in Christ consciousness, but your actions will come from that also. So it will no longer be just that's my goal and my achievement, what I'm working through, but you will start to be adapting this into your thinking, into your lives in many ways that we're going to talk about today. And so a little history about this and a little understanding, I think, will help you all. I want you to understand that there is a huge history behind Jesus' coming and coming into the new age of love, the age of Aquarius, as some people call it, living the New Testament, not just reading it, making it real. And that's what I'm about today, to talk and share with you. You see, when Mac was opening up and talking about the White Brotherhood, this is exactly where this all comes from. And way back in the Psalms, there was a time when some people came to earth as Mac's as Roanhorse did, and Roanhorse was a walk-in for that experience for him. The Melchizedeks in the Bible that did so much of the writing of the Psalms were walk-ins, and they came in from spirit and were never born as children and babies, but came in as spirit to live and produce the verses for the Psalms for people to find answers and truth, and find ways that were very, very helpful to keep spiritual words and wisdom alive. So that's what the White Brotherhood has done. They have perpetuated themselves into different groups and organizations, associations throughout history, clear in that far, far in time, so that the way today would be bright and open for all of those of you that are on that path. As the time progressed, before the birth of Jesus, there was a group called the Essenes, which would be similar to the people that I just mentioned, that group. Only most of them were born as babies and were brought into the Essenes because of their high ability to help others raise their consciousness. And one of the members of that particular group or sect, her name was Anna. She became the grandmother of Jesus. And her history is very fascinating if you ever do any research. She came as a walk-in also. She was not born as a baby. And she lived to be 800 years old by learning different rites and initiations that were able to perpetuate life, which anybody can do if they choose. So when it talks in the Bible about the long ages, that is not just a story. It is actually did occur with many people, not just Methuselah. And she, in her first walk-in experience, took over the body of a young woman dying, and they made this agreement. And she began with her walk-in experience, because it was to be a permanent experience, did start to change physically, looking more like her spiritual presence was manifesting rather than the lady who had that physical body. So she was, over time, did become looking more of the person that she was truly was, and not retaining the old attitudes and history of the original person with that body. It changed. And she brought a great deal of light with her, and that was the point. She was very much into initiations, and she traveled greatly from various different countries. India, Egypt, Britain, various places around the Mediterranean, and so she could acquire the initiations necessary, and then those that she received through direct contact with spirit, necessary not only to create a longevity in her life, but to be able to sustain a long enough life to bring enough children into the world to create a new light-seeded population. Her first husband, she had several children. She was not married for like 600 years before she did marry. She was, all those years, was raising her consciousness with all these, in what the masters called initiations. To make it in simpler terms for you, it was a succession of releasing all her human characteristics, the guilts and the shames and the jealousies and the fears and the some people in the Bible called them the 7 deadly sins. All those negative energies have to be released when in physical form. So there's more space for more light. And that's what the masters have done throughout the ages, is released the darkness for the light. In the Bible there are many, many passages about the light overcoming the darkness, raising you out of the darkness, shining the light of the Spirit onto the darkness. And that is really what this is all about, because as you become more and more light creatures, that is the Christ consciousness. The more you release the darkness, then the less dense energy you have, and you are less bound to the planet Earth and its darkness and density. As she found that her husband died and then remarried, the important part of her first marriage, however, brought her a son, Joseph of Armenia, and his supporting of his mother's endeavors was undeniably, absolutely essential, because he became very wealthy by marrying into a wealthy family and becoming wealthy on his own right. He gained stature in they were not of the Jewish religion, they were Essenes, but they lived close to Jerusalem and mingled with the Jerusalem people of the city and the Jewish people with that faith to understand what was going on, because the Roman rule was so cruel and they didn't want any part of it, so they tried to stay separated in their little community of Mount Carmel. But they needed to know what was going on so that they could move wisely around to go to the different initiations in the different areas and to make the necessary travels. And in his wealth was able to acquire a shipping from one ship added another, and became a shipping metropolis as far as monopoly is what I wanted to say as far as the shipping trade. And he started shipping tin out of Britain by Cornwall, and over time actually became owner of many of the tin mines himself. So his wealth was absolutely necessary to support, as you will see in a minute, Jesus' travels. When his mother remarried, because her husband died, she then had a series of children, 12, who helped create the Essene community, more obviously population and generations of family that could continue on in the seeding and traditionally teaching the children and the generations to come about this energy shifting, this energy changing, the right use of energy. And it was established that through her genealogy that Jesus would be the one to come into the planet to be the most obvious of the avatars that have come to show the way. There were many before Jesus, but he became the one that was more available to the public, and rather than staying in the mystery schools as so many avatars did, or many masters did in those days, because it was not safe necessarily to be different than what was the culture. And it was out of protection many times that those other enlightened souls came to help more enlightened souls, but that was not as obvious as the ministry of Jesus. And he agreed to follow in the necessary steps of becoming enlightened throughout his growing up. So his uncle's wealth allowed him to travel to India, and when I say traveled, it was like an entourage. His cousins from the other generations of her children marrying and having family would accompany him. It was safer to travel in groups, and you had to have the right papers, because the Romans were very much into controlling what was going on. And so his uncle, because of his wealth and authority and high status with his shipping magnate abilities, knew the right people and could get them the right traveling papers. And oftentimes he went with Jesus himself for these initiations. And he helped provide the camels or whatever means for them to be able to make these trips, because they weren't just overnight trips. They were usually gone for several months at a time. So these trips were made into the far reaches, such as Egypt, and they would go to the initiations. And sometimes Anna would go with them. Sometimes these trips were made up to Britain, and they would spend, Jesus spent actually a couple of years with the Druids. About 3 years or so in India, several years in Egypt, and they would go back and forth and make much shorter trips, but sometimes they were extended trips. And throughout this period of time, Anna was continuing to have children, and it came time for the birth of her 12th child, which you know as Mother Mary. And they called her Mariana, her mother. Now, the Bible has said that it was a virgin birth, and I would like to just add a little bit of comment to that. You see, Anna herself was never conceived as a baby, so therefore there was no interruption in her coming into this earth plane as far as mating with a human, so to speak, of the third dimension, or the human race. That did not occur. So she was the perfect mother for Mary. And when it was time for Mary to marry, you see what happened was her husband was in his altered state of spiritual height. And it was not a human conception, it was a God arranged from the higher realms conception. He was the one that was there to facilitate the actual implantation, but the seed came from the highest sources of spirituality, and the highest sources of light, and they called it light inception. And so to explain this for terms way back in the beginning, thousands of years ago, this would not have been something people in those days would have understood, that it was a much higher consciousness that conceived Christ, as we know Jesus to be Christed. And so they gave it the term virgin birth, because that was a way to say that he was of a pure origin. And he was. Now, this particular situation was necessary to continue the light coming into for future generations. And as there are books out there today that do explain that he had children, he was married, and I would like to go into that at another time, because there's still much of that has not been disclosed accurately. But for today, we just want to say that all these initiations that he went through were much needed, as he was in the 40 days and 40 nights when the devil was tempting him. That was part of these initiations. It was what the Bible would call the devil, but what you would today call your lower nature, or the dark side of the soul, or your ego, lower negative influence. And when he said, "Satan, get thee behind me," what he was releasing the negative energy. So if it was jealousy, or if it was greed or lust, or whatever those negative human emotions were, he was releasing them from his physical body for it to be replaced with more and more of God's light. So if you have illnesses, you might use that as a great example, because he came to be an example. That if you have problems in your worldly medical affairs, just tell yourself and your higher power, this is not aligned with God's light. Satan, get thee behind me. This is a very good way to purify what you're trying to accomplish by releasing the darkness into the light. You shine the light of it, and then there is no more of that particular situation to come and be the motivation to show you that something is not in the light. And that's exactly all it really is a symbol or a signal to say you are not in harmony with the universe. So you see the various things that Jesus did when he actually brought forth more fish and loaves. It was because the spirit of sharing manifests. It wasn't because more fish actually went out and got more fish or whatever. It was the spirit manifesting. This is a beautiful example of what happens when you share with others. One day, Marilyn had someone show up at her house before dinner. She had just enough for the family that night. She usually would have ample and have leftovers, but that night there was just enough, whatever the food was. She knew that it would just barely make it, but she invited that person for dinner, knowing that it was going to maybe be stretched a little bit. And when dinner was over, everybody was filled up and there was still food on the plate. That's sharing. That's what happens. You have plenty left over even when you share. So you see, sharing is a very loving thing, and it multiplies in your life. So when you don't think you have enough and somebody comes along, don't feel like you are going to lose out. When you share it, you'll probably still have plenty. He created so many wonderful miracles, which you can do also, he said. You see, it's not what you think life is about. It's not the physical of what you touch. What he was trying to show when he said the kingdom is within, he was showing you that that energy is within you, the energy of God, the energy of love, that you are created in this wonderful, magnificent, benevolent energy that supports you and glues everything together. And if you're not aligned with that energy, then your life becomes in a disarray. So the more you can do to bring your life into the light, the better your life smooths out and actually becomes, in the long term of many years of accomplishing this, it actually turns into feeling like you're in heaven on earth, because you have removed the negative darkness with the light of God. And that's what the right use of energy is the more you can identify that which is obscuring the God within you, that light within you, the love within you, if it's obscuring it, to remove it, to ask for God to remove it and replace it with his light, which is already there, you've just obscured it. And for those of you who have an old memory, I would like to bring up a little cartoon guy that was in the comics on Sundays called Pogo. And he was a little alligator in the swamps of the South. And he one Sunday said very victoriously, I have met the enemy and it is me. And that's what you're getting rid of, is that ego, that enemy that stops the light of God. And the more you reduce that ego, the fear, and replace it with faith, you cannot have fear and faith at the same time. You cannot serve two masters, as it says in the Bible. You cannot serve two masters. You either choose to move in the way of the light and move forward out of the darkness, or you let that ego keep you in the old alligator swamp. And I'm sure that the people in here have moved far out of the alligator swamp, but there's still little remnants that might need to be looked at. Marilyn is still finding little threads here and there that needs to be released, and she found some more this week. It seems to be a never-ending job, but you can continue to move higher and higher by doing that, and your consciousness will raise into a place where you will come at some point in your growth into that Christ consciousness. And it is part of what's happening on planet Earth. There is enough consciousness today in the planet, not obviously on the news yet, but it will be. There were some new victories in a situation just recently. Some people were fighting for more righteousness and justice in some situations, and the news came out that they had done exactly what they'd tried to accomplish. So in places it is happening here and there. Look for the good, look for the wonderful new changes that are coming about, and applaud them and support them, because the more you look at the good things, they will magnify. And you want to just take your focus off what isn't going well for you and see how you can just maybe change a little to make it go more smoothly by trying something that's a little more positive, a little bit smoother way to handle it. Try a different way and see if things don't work out better for you. You don't have to keep being the hamster on the hamster wheel, going around and around. The right use of energy allows you to get off the hamster wheel and say, there's a better way to do this. And the better way is always to send love to the situation and say, God, I need more answers, I need more help to give me the answers that I do need today, to help me move through this into a better way to deal with whatever the problem is. And the answers will come. One of Marilyn's favorite ways to do this is tonight when she goes to bed and she'll say, okay, God, what more do I still need to understand? And in the morning, guess what? She wakes up with something that she still hadn't been aware of, that still needs a little work here or there. And oh my, there goes, she knows what to do today, and helps others do that too. So you see that there's always things to look at, but if you keep moving forward in good, orderly direction, good, orderly direction, then God can manifest in your life. G-O-D, gifts offered daily. So as gifts are offered daily to you, let them appear, let them come and be joyous in them and celebrate the good things that are coming because your spirit is manifesting them. This is what so many people do not understand. They look for more wealth or a better job or a fancier car. But your security is within. Always did Jesus go forward in confidence and courage. It's always within when the Father is within and you are connected to that energy within. You have all the courage you need. You have all the self-esteem you need. You have all the prosperity and abundance is there because you can manifest it into the physical. And some things have manifested very obviously from spirit into physical for Marilyn recently. It is possible to have all your needs met in God's grace. It comes from spirit. So the height of your spiritual growth will manifest into a very prosperous, comfortable life for you that will be glorious, harmonious, and in balance. The right use of energy is to always send love, no matter what the situation, no matter what the person, how desperate that person might have been. Looking for love in all the wrong directions, just finally send him love. That's what he's been looking for. That's when people calm down and can handle their life better, is when they feel accepted and their needs are met. They're only acting out looking for the thing that you have found, so send love to your enemies. That's probably the smartest thing you can do that's in the Bible if you want to change your energy into working for you, is to find those people that need help so desperately in so disparate ways and send love to them. And that's growth and sparing and sharing. I want to say that using your energy rightly by not reacting in any fear, because it's an illusion. It's like a mirage. And as you turn to faith, the mirage leaves, the fear leaves, and it's no longer real. Only God's love is real. The great reality is deep inside. And that's the right use of love today. That's the right use of energy, is to create that love that is forever and eternal. You people in this room know this, but we're encouraging you to remind you to stay on track and to keep persevering, because sometimes it feels like, oh, sometimes the burdens are heavy and sometimes the road is not easy. But to know that you are on track, you are accomplishing, you are persevering in a way that is indeed miraculous. And the reason there's so few people here in this room today is there's so few people on that path. And in the next 20 years, you are going to see a huge change in the population of their attitudes and how they handle things. The violence will not be on television. The movies will be pleasant and easy to watch. They will not be having heavy metal music, which is very often very detrimental to those that listen in so many ways. So you see, it's changing to the things that are loving and positive, releasing those that are not is the right use of energy. And Jesus came as a wonderful example that he never faltered in that. He continually was compassionate to those, no matter who he met. It did not mean that somebody was in desperate straits or was labeled a prostitute or was labeled a killer or whatever the problem was. He always provided a very comforting and supportive caring for them. Marilyn and Mac watched a movie the other night, which is a beautiful example of love. It's an old show called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? And that young woman that portrayed the young woman in the movie was a bright light. And Cindy Poitier saw the bright light in her. And how she was filled with love, and she could see no bias, no bigotry. She could see no difference in races. She could see no difference in all these various parts of life that society has taught us to be critical of. So it was a beautiful story of love. And this is what I want to leave you with today, is it doesn't matter what medicine tells you. It doesn't matter what the church tells you. It doesn't matter what schools tell you. They're all outside of you. The answers come from within, the kingdom of heaven. You are already a perfect creation of God. You are a spiritual being removing your human condition. It is here on earth. It is here to stay for several thousand years. The Bible said 1,000 years, but it actually will be longer. I've said that before. So I want you to know that you are so close and taking final steps into that higher consciousness, not to give up on yourself, not to become heavy burden, give your burdens to God and move forward knowing that in faith, it's already, I'll tell you the last chapter. We're moving into this peace on earth. And you are going to find that peace within. In fact, it's there if you remove anything that is stopping it. Just set it behind you. Satan, get thee behind me, and you can return to that heaven on earth right now. It is your choice. To follow the right use of energy is to remove it, that is anything causing you to have not the perfect life on earth that you were brought here to enjoy. This is a planet where you are to enjoy the beautiful nature. This is a beautiful planet compared to many planets. It is a glorious planet to be outside, and especially this area where you have mountains and water and flowers and green grass and beautiful trees. This is a beautiful, beautiful place to enjoy and to focus on how grateful you are that you are in such a luscious land to live and to enjoy and have in your surroundings and to be part of, and that it's there for you. You know, there is a saying to stop and smell the roses. And I'm telling you to enjoy not only smelling them, but to enjoy having them in your life. Tell yourself, I am in joy. I am in gratitude. I am in the presence of God. That's the right use of your energy. And I want to leave you with one last thought. Because so many of you have voices in your head which come from your ego and stop you from moving forward or making life difficult, or it seems like people in your life are difficult. To remember, they're just teaching you one more time to turn within, send love to them, and say, I don't have to listen to those voices in my head ever again. Because see, they're not of God. And the only reality is God and love. So if I'm going to be in love, I am not going to worry about what's around me. I will pay attention to the love inside, deep inside, that has only been buried by those old voices in my head. And you know, today I give you permission to fire the voices and move into your heart, knowing that you have used your energy wisely. You have used your energy lovingly and compassionately for yourself. And you have created a new you. If you are a new creature, you are in Christ consciousness. Go merrily about your day and your life, knowing how far you have come, how close you are, knowing that faith will bring you home. Honesty is still the best policy. That you are truly loved and you have always been loved. I'm here to say today, there's nothing wrong with you. Physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. You are all children of God, and everything is right if you choose to go with that. It is your choice to choose love or not. Love is a choice. I hope that you use your energy to choose wisely. And with that, I would like to leave you this afternoon knowing how much your angels and guardians and all those wonderful spiritual help that you have around you has been helping you all these days, all these lifetimes. To come to this point, you might let them know you appreciate them, know how much they've been there for you and helped you, and acknowledge them. How that you know that things have happened because they were there with you all the time. You have come a long ways, and that you know that today it can only get better. The best is yet to come. So enjoy it while you can, which will be for the rest of your life, eternally in God's love. And I bid you fair this afternoon.
Thank you, Germaine.
Well, I'll push the button and then it'll come.
You done?
Yeah, with that one, we're gonna have Ariel come in.
It's still running.
We'll push the button so we get a new start.
Oh, we can do it anytime.
You can do it anytime.